What's good, Tristan Talks family? Hope you all are well. I've kind of not made a video in 5 days, but I've been researching and writing scripts and all that. I'm gonna put out a video, maybe a lot of videos this week. I just wanted to address one thing about about these videos. These videos are obviously they're not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm gonna tell you the absolute truth of what I've learned and what people like and what's out there. I'm gonna tell you the truth out there. We're gonna dig into stuff that like most people either don't know or don't want to talk about it. So either it's that history, politics, power, human nature. That's what we do here, right? And so I mean, I've been studying this stuff formally for years, even though I'm only 19. But I've been researching and writing, and I mean, you can infer what I'm saying. But most of my topics are not my opinions. These are stuff that's already been written on. These are like scholarly articles, books, primary sources. There's scholarship in these. This is real research. Like my first couple videos were my opinions, but I kind of went away with that and actually did some scholarly work because people already did that. But so the comments that I'm getting are cool and I love them. I love the different opinions, but some of them are attacking my character. And that's not what we're doing here. We're not going to attack my character. We're going to attack the argument. And some of the arguments are just, I'm going to be blunt, they're ignorant. And so I'm not going to respond to debate you online. If you want to talk, you can check the description or check the bio of YouTube and follow me on Instagram or DM me on Instagram and chat me up there. I'm not gonna go back and forth with you on YouTube. I might say a couple like some of y'all I responded to, which I appreciate. I appreciate the comments, but you gotta understand this is scholarly work. And we all have our different opinions, but some of these opinions are been written and said by scholars from fucking Aristotle to now to John Rawls to Angela Davis, all this stuff. But that's all I want to say. So when I bring you something, when I make these videos, I'm not bringing you no Heritage Foundation ass shit. I'm bringing you the real fucking thing. I spend days, hours, weeks researching these stuff. That's why I'm talking about totalitarianism a lot on this channel because I'm currently doing research on totalitarianism and genocide and the banality of evil. I'm kind of giving these videos are given to give me a head start on the research, so I already know what I'm going into. It helps me structure them, so when it's time to actually put the research on the paper, I can actually know what I'm talking about because I already made a 50-minute video on origins of totalitarianism by Hannah Arendt. I did that because I'm actually doing research on that, on a scholarly paper, and to go to conferences and actually conduct this said research. But yeah, but that's the thing. They'll tell that kids should start something, and they should do it. They should do it now. But then when they get to that point, suddenly they're too young, or they're not smart enough, or they don't belong in the field just yet. You have to wait 3, 4, 5 years. No, I don't. I I believe that I have the confidence to know what I'm talking about. And if you guys disagree, that's fine. But when you attack my character, it's like you're kind of straying away from the whole argument. Yeah, there's no point for you to attack my character. You don't even know me. You know, it takes a lot to come up here and record these videos because you know you're going to a public audience on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. You know. But it's fine. I don't care. All I'm saying is that let's keep the discourse pretty respectful. Because that's what all these videos are for, a respectful discourse. You don't need to be attacking anyone else's character. You don't need to be attacking my character. You can disagree with me, but I'm going to hold my opinion. That's fine. But I just stopped. I tune it out. When you attack someone's character, you attack my character, or you just start talking about other bullshit that. And I urge you to actually watch the video before making a comment. Watch the video, and not just listen to the title or the first 5 minutes. Watch the whole video, because the stuff I'm saying in there and the comments I'm reading is the same stuff I've already mentioned in the video. So watch the whole video. This is the thing. Before you assume, just watch the video. And if you still disagree, that's fine. Let me know, and then I'll respond to you in a respectful way. And some of the it's just a whole lot of bullshit. Like, somebody called me academically challenged. Like, what did I do? I laughed it off, but I'm trying to figure out, like, what's going on. But it's okay. It's fine. But I'm still going to come up here and talk, because that's what I do. But I've been reading this book that's also referring to my own research, called Hitler's Beneficiaries. How Hitler bought his people. I have the book right here. I'm kind of halfway through with it, like right there. But this book is by Gotz. He's a German philosopher, all that. This is one of the most eye-opening books that I've come across of. And most of the books I've read are eye-opening. I have them all right here. Pertaining to my research, they're all eye-opening. And I've read 2 of them. I just need to read these 2, and then I'll be research ready. But this book will challenge what you think about how evil actually operates in the real world. Because the scary part isn't that there's monsters. The scary part is that ordinary people who let it happen because they were so quote-unquote getting paid to do it. So the central question of this book is this: how did Hitler actually win the loyalty of ordinary German people? We're conditioned to think that the answer was propaganda or fear or charisma. And yeah, those things played a role and are true. But in this book, Gotz is drawing on his secret financial records and documents that weren't widely analyzed before, he makes this unsettling argument that says Hitler literally bought his people's consent by running a campaign of theft on an almost unimaginable scene and challenging those proceeds into general social programs. What does it sound like? Socialism. The Nazi regime kept ordinary Germans comfortable, loyal, and largely unconcerned with what was being done in their name. Keep that in mind. That is the thesis, and keep that in mind, as I said. But he talks about the Nazi welfare state. This actually means that lower income taxes, higher taxes on capital gains in property, and no taxation of overtime work, pension increases, and free healthcare. The standard of living for the average German actually improved under the Nazi regime. This was not an accident. It was deliberate policy designed to keep the population satisfied and politically passive. This is where we get into totalitarianism. The Nazi leadership was addicted to the spoils of invasion and annexation and dispossession. Every time the regime needed to fund its welfare programs, every time it needed to keep the Germans comfortable, it went out and the German regime, or the Nazi regime, went out and took from someone else, conquered territories, occupied nations, and most systematically, Jewish people. The Holocaust wasn't just ideological, it was also financial. The genocide was partly bankrolling the German middle class. Bishop, tap in. And then he talks about the mechanics of plunder. Soldiers were sent millions of packages home from the front, stuffed with like valuables, food, butter, perfume, fine cloth, and looted from occupied territories across Europe. These weren't rogue acts. They weren't doing this to get back at someone. This was a systematic and tolerated, and in many cases encouraged by the state. They went after Jewish possessions like furniture, clothing, money, property, and disappeared into German homes and pockets across the Reich. After Jews were deported and murdered, their belongings were redistributed. People bombed out their homes were given furniture that came from Jewish families who no longer existed. Ali himself, and this is one of the most haunting parts of the books, discovered that the antique furniture in his own parents' home had been donated by the state during the war. It almost certainly came from a Jewish home. The ordinary German didn't need to pull a trigger to be complicit. They just had to accept the couch. You feel me? But who was actually paying? While ordinary Germans enjoyed an improved standard of living, Jews and citizens of occupied lands faced crippling taxation, mass looting, enslavement, destruction. The pace and timing of Nazi conquest, from the annexation of Austria to the seizure of the Czech Sudetenland, were driven by rapidly escalating financial needs of the German war machine. Warnings of this imminent financial collapse pushed the Third Reich toward increasingly desperate and brazen acts of death. In other words, the war wasn't just an ideological expansion, it was a robbery with an army. And the German people were the beneficiaries of that robbery, whether they asked to be or not. But he also talks about the ordinary complicity. This is one of the most important parts of the book. His core argument is that ordinary Germans' complicity in the Holocaust was driven by the economic benefit. He pushes back against scholarship that blamed primarily on the Nazi elites, arguing instead that everyday Germans shared in the responsibility because they shared in the material gains. Whatever moral qualms Germans may have felt were swept away by the waves of government handouts, tax breaks, and provincial legislation. That is the mechanism of complicity that Ali is describing. It's not that everyone was a fanatic, it's that the system was made looking away profitable. The genocide wasn't subsidizing their comfort, and as long as that was, the genocide was subsidizing their comfort, and as long as that was true, most people weren't going to ask too many questions because they kept getting material gains from the Holocaust. And this book obviously has its critics. Historian Richard J. Evans argues that Ali overstates the role of material factors. If economic comfort was the primary glue holding German loyalty together, Evans asks, why didn't popular support collapse faster once Germany was clearly losing the war? His point is that ideology was just as important, probably more important in some phases, and that Ali's economic lens, while valuable, shows only half the picture. And Christopher Browning, author of Ordinary Men, says he doesn't fully share Ali's views on the underlying economic causes of the Holocaust, but still considers it a fascinating and important book about the Nazi economic policy. So this book is provocative, and deliberately so. Ali isn't claiming economics was the only driver, but he's making the case that it's been underexamined, and that we can't fully understand the Holocaust without following the money. So what does this matter today? Because the lesson here is that when a government or any government offers you material benefits funded by the oppression or exploitation of another group, the question is, do you ask where it comes from? Most people don't, and most people take the couch. Ali's book is a warning about what happens when populations trade moral accountability for personal comfort. When people decide that their standard of living is worth more than their integrity, that's not a uniquely German problem. That's a human problem. And history keeps showing us what the bill looks like when it finally comes due. If you want to understand how ordinary people become complicit in extraordinary evil, not through hatred, but through comfort, this book is an essential reading. It took me, I read pretty fast, and it's only like 330 pages. It took me about a week to finish. Well, I'm not finished. I'm on page 307, which I will finish today, actually. But let me know what you guys think. Please remember to be respectful in the comments. Don't attack the character. Attack the argument. The question I'm gonna from now here on out, I'm gonna have a question in the description, or I'm gonna end this with a question that you can answer in the comments, and you can expand on that. But the question is, did the economic explanation hold up, or do you think ideology was the real driver? Let me know. Appreciate you guys. I love the support, and I will keep pumping these videos out if you guys love them. Peace.